Okay, cool.
All right, great. Thank you so much for being here today. What's up, everybody? My name is Chris Smith, and this is an hour with my mom. And I'm super happy to have a friend here, a dear friend, an old friend for our first interview. His name is Tobbs, and he has a lot to share. And as this is our first interview, I just want to share a little bit about how an hour with my mom came about. Um, this was a few weeks ago, and well, let me backtrack. So I have a mother who was very dear to me, who passed away a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, and I have been living with the grief and everything associated with the grief, the highs and lows, the twists and turns. And a few weeks ago, I was having a conversation with a colleague, and just in the middle of the conversation, I was hit with what I call a surge of love, one of those moments where I just felt my mom's presence, and I really just thought, I wish my mom was here. I wish I could talk to her. And I just wish that she was here so I could tell her, thank you for all you've done for me. And the thought just kept sitting in my head. I wish I just had an hour with her. If only I could have an hour with my mom. And like something clicked. And I was like, I want to give a space for other people who are grieving. And so is the genesis of an hour with my mom. So, Tobbs, I want to ask you before we get into it, what made you interested in doing this?
I think initially I when you told when I heard about it through your Instagram, um, it made me think of how much closer I feel to my father now that he's gone. And I I I feel like I understand a lot of the reasons why he did what he did and why he raised me a certain way. And like I didn't understand that while he was here, and we clashed a lot because we were so much alike.
Yeah.
Um, but after he passed, I just felt like this connection with him so much stronger. And um, like I was like, oh, that would be so cool if I could sit with my dad today and like tell him, like how how grateful I am for all he's done for me and my family. And even though like times were sometimes a little rough, or if even though sometimes we didn't really see eye to eye or get along, um I was like, well, if he was here today, I would tell him like, man, like we could work this out, we could be best friends now, and so that was something that really intrigued me when I read your post. I was like, oh, I would love to ponder this and and really like dive into how I would interact with him, with
Mm,
how I am now today, who I
yeah.
am today. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you've mentioned it a bit, but your dad, like, I was gonna ask you, who are you bringing into the
oh
space? And
yes, sorry.
no, 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 you're all good. Who are you bringing into the space? Your father, right?
Yes, my father.
Okay. Tell us about your dad. What's his name?
Yeah. My father, he was born Johannes Kepler Masub. Joined the military, I think, right out of high school. Changed his name to Johnny Michael to make it easier on paper.
Johannes Kepler to Johnny Michael.
Yeah. And he was, yeah, 18, joined the military, fought in Vietnam, was a airborne ranger in Vietnam, and moved to Hawaii after. Met my mom. My mom was going to school here, and I don't really know too much about his childhood or his upbringing too much. I know he was the oldest of 14, maybe 15. Um, yeah, a big family. So I knew he took on a lot of responsibility when he left home at 18. I think he really was like trying to pave a way for his younger siblings, and really just like find bigger opportunities for himself, but also like opening doors for his family.
Mhm.
being
Where
the
was
oldest.
home? Where was home that he
Oh
left?
yes, he was born and raised in Palau. That's where both of my parents come from.
Okay.
The Republic of Palau, very small island nation, south of southeast of the Philippines. Um, yeah, I don't know how, maybe like a 5 hour flight from the Philippines. It's like a 9 hour flight there. Um, I've I haven't been there since for like 20 years. I haven't been in Palau. And I grew up, I was born and raised in Hawaii, so I'm kind of a little bit removed from my culture, and um, that's something I do want to go back to and eventually learn more about. And I think now that I have this different relationship with my father, now that he's gone, I feel like I'm in a better place to find my roots, to really like dig into where I come from and learn about the culture. And yeah, it's a journey, and I'm gonna get there eventually. I'm not in a
Mhm.
space now where I can be there in Palau, but I know that that day is gonna come eventually. So
Yeah, yeah,
like God's
yeah.
preparing me for that.
Oh, man. I'm curious, is that something that you think about a lot, like going back to Palau? And if so, how do you connect that to your father?
It it wasn't something I thought about until I think after he passed. It was probably around 2019. I was really considering moving there, and honestly, I was just kind of fed up with the city in the small island that I was from, and things just kind of felt like a loop, and I wanted something different. But I think a part of it was like I was trying to run away really
Mm,
from doing the self work and the inner healing that I needed to do. Um, and luckily, 2020 changed everything, and I had to stay there because Palau was on lockdown, so you couldn't go in or out, you know. So,
uh,
um, but I was able to process a lot of emotions and a lot of healing, a lot of things that I just didn't make time for. Um,
mm,
During the lockdown, I was able to really slow down and process some things, and um, writing was a big tool during that time, um, for sure. And I wrote two poems uh, for my father that during that time that really helped usher this healing with my relationship with them, I think.
mm. Yeah, yeah. I'd love to get to the poems, but before we do, tell
Yeah.
me more, like, when did dad die?
He passed away in 2017.
Okay.
It was like in between Christmas and New Year's.
Mhm.
So we got to spend Christmas with him. I think it was on the 27th or 28th of December he passed away. He was sick for a little while. He had a bad cough, and he was home for like maybe 3 weeks before my mom finally told him you should go to the doctor and check it out. And he was in the hospital for a couple days. He they, he had a pneumonia that was, it wasn't fluid in his lungs. It was like food particles in
Mm.
his lungs. It was a different kind of pneumonia, and that eventually led to his passing. Yeah,
How'd you how'd you deal with that at the time? Like, did you know what was going on?
I it kind of happened really quickly. He didn't seem weak at all, like during those days. So I felt like he was gonna be fine. My mom was worried about him, but it didn't seem like, it kind of just took us by surprise, all of us,
Mhm.
except for my mom. I think my mom kind of saw it coming, but for me and my sisters, it was kind of a shock to us. and they had called us in the middle of the night and told him that he wasn't breathing, and they tried to resuscitate him. So we rushed over to the hospital, but there was nothing they could do. And yeah, it was it's so weird to just revisit that night because I can still see like the panic on my mom's face, and I was just trying to stay calm, and I was praying with her on our way to the hospital, and just praying over my dad, just trying to really just to keep my mom calm. And but I really had no idea um, how dire the situation was at the time. So when we went into the got to the hotel, the hospital room to see him, and he was already gone. It, we were sitting in the lobby of the hospital for about an hour before they let us in. Um, so that was a lot of processing happening there, in the lobby, just with my sisters and my mom, and we're just heard the news, and so it's kind of a blur, really.
Yeah.
I It's a little bit of a blur,
Mhm.
but being in the hospital room with my sisters and my mom was like very something happened in that moment. I feel like my dad was really it was almost like he was really holding us together. And since his death, like I'm so much closer to my sisters. I'm so much closer to my nephews and nieces. I'm so much closer to my mom. Like we never said I love you before,
Mm.
like as a family. That wasn't something that was said unless like we haven't seen each or we're going to see each other for a long time. But now it's like this is something that we've adopted into our daily lives, and we always end the phone call or leave each other with a hug and I love you. And that wasn't we did not hug or say I love you before. That was not a thing in our house. Um, and that's something I'm very grateful for because I never thought that, like I always thought that was weird for people to
Mm.
do.
Mhm.
It was like with their family, like, oh, that's weird, like just hug his sister, like that's weird. Um, but I think growing up in the church, you're with my sisters in the church. We were so vulnerable with our family at the church, and we're always so open. So I think naturally it was just like, okay, well, this is the next step of our evolution as a family. Like, let's be what that was. Let's be who the church family was for us, like
Mm.
for each other. And it wasn't something that was talked about or spoken on, but it just naturally happened. And I really feel like it happened in that moment in the hospital room. Like I felt like my dad's spirit was just like, you guys gotta stay strong and stay together. Like you guys are a team. So I
Mm.
think that was something that was very beautiful that came out of that really dark, or I wouldn't say dark. I would say it was a heavy experience, but um, I think some beautiful things came out of it for sure.
Mm. That's so fascinating, man. I mean, there's so much there. I think, like, kind of something that I've realized from my own grief experience is just being mindful of the words I used. And like when my mom died, the word devastating kept coming up, but then I was like, this is not devastating. This is horrible. This is heart-wrenching. This is horrible, but devastating is not really the word I would use.
Mm.
And I just think it's interesting that you're saying that, like, there was darkness, but yet I hear that there was beauty and a lot of beauty in this situation, or positive in this situation.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, for sure. I think that's partly is like my personality is to like always try to see like the lesson within the pain or within the heartache. Like I've always written since I was like 12 years old. I would always write, and that's how I would process my emotions and just figure out what I was feeling.
Mhm.
Um, and before it was just I was keeping it to myself. I was very internal, but now I'm able to share it with my loved ones, with the people around me, and
Mhm.
um, which it's still sometimes it's very scary and hard. But a lot of times I feel like when you share these dark things and your all your struggles with others, you find a common ground with a lot of a lot of your family members that you wouldn't even think were feeling the same way. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something I always try to keep in mind. Like whenever there's any kind of um, death or uh, any kind of turmoil, I feel like I'm always trying to see the brighter side or trying to see what it's trying to teach me in the moment,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, which is not always easy. Like, you know,
No,
sometimes you
no.
just want to bypass that stuff and numb yourself. But
Mm.
I think I know better for myself, so I can't just stuff things down anymore. I know how it affects me if I stuff things down. So I try to stay aware of that and not dwell too much on the negativity, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm curious, man, what's been your relationship to grief? Like, where were you maybe like after your father passed away? And then like where are you now with like a few years in between his
Mm.
death?
I think when he passed, I was in kind of this. I felt like I was still a kid in my mind. I wasn't that long ago. I was probably like 30,
Hmm.
31 maybe, but I still felt like a child in a lot of ways. And I think after his death, I it really made me like step up and like I'm the only I'm the only boy in my family. I have 5 sisters. I'm the only boy.
Five sisters.
Five
Wow.
sisters,
Okay.
and second to the youngest. Um, but when I since I was young, my dad would always like let me know, you're the only boy in the family, so like you're the one passing the family name down. So
Mhm.
he I think he put a lot of pressure on me to like, hey, you're even though he changed his name, right? But yeah, I think after his death, I really took that to heart and really stepped into my role as uh, a man, not only in my household, but like for my sister's kids, because a lot of my sister's kids don't have their fathers around,
Mhm.
and I am the only uncle on their mom's side. So I really like took my role as an uncle very seriously. I really just I mean, I see these kids as my own really now. Um, but like yeah, I it kind of forced me to step up and and start thinking differently. Um, and today I feel I still feel like a kid. I don't know. I
Yeah.
still feel like I don't know what I'm doing and I'm still trying to figure everything out.
Yeah.
But I think today I'm a lot more balanced
Mm.
and a lot more realistic and logical.
Mm.
Uh, my dad was very logical. I was the creative, thinker that's always like trying to think of like ways to do things easier and smarter or whatever, you know.
The artist?
Yes, yes.
Mhm,
Thank you.
mhm.
And my dad was always like, "No, do things this way so it's easy." You know, like he was very logical, and that's something that I've learned to implement into my life without losing my creative side. You know, like being logical and um, with my partner now, like you know, it's very we have a beautiful relationship, and how we communicate with each other is so different from how we both communicated with our family before. Um, we both came from like our both of our relationships with our fathers weren't the greatest, you know.
Mhm.
But I think, and he's my partner has lost his father as well, well, a couple years ago. So that's something that we found in common, and we both feel this new connection with our fathers now that they're not bound by their flesh and all their worldly struggles. You know, it's like we can see them as they were in their purest form, as a spirit that they carry throughout their lives here. You know, like that's something that we feel on a deeper level, and we're so much more grateful for what they've done in their lives to make things easier for us, or to make things the best that they could for us in this life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you have that appreciation for your dad while he was alive?
I mean, I never said it, you
Mm,
know, like I never told him. I
mhm.
knew that, like, I knew he did a lot for us, and you know, he worked from when I was born till I was 16. He worked on another island on this atoll, Johnston Atoll.
Oh, Johnson Atoll, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he
Mhm.
was worked there for 16 years. He would be home, I think, every 3 months for like 2 weeks. He'd be home. So I rarely saw him growing up, and um, my mom said when I was a baby and he would come home from work, I would be scared of him because he just wasn't. He would be, you know, gone, and so I think I held a lot of resentment about that when I was younger because I didn't understand, you know, like why he was be gone for so long, and but you know, as I got older, before he passed, I like realized like he had to he had to work this job in order to keep his family in a stable place, you know, and I appreciated that, but I never like forgave him for
Mhm.
how I felt, and I also didn't never spoke on that stuff with him. Like I didn't tell him like I'm mad at you because you're never home, and you know, like we just never spoke. Um, so I think as I got older, I realized how much he's sacrificed for not just his family, like me and my sisters, but also for his family back home. You know, he really did a lot to change their mindsets of coming from such a small island nation, like feeling stuck there. Like he helped his brothers and sisters venture out more and like explore the world. You know,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting, man. I feel like those things that go unsaid, those things that go unspoken, like sometimes, not all the time, sometimes they could just kind of drift and like we can shift perspective after our loved one dies. And it's like, I think about what you said about you became a man. I felt that same way after my mom died. That was like, I'm a man. There's no like, I felt like once I moved to Hawaii, I became a man, but
mm,
like there's a true like line of like once a parent dies, it's like this is it. I'm making decisions. Like I have to step up in ways. I have to make funeral arrangements in ways and do
Yeah,
things that like maybe our parents would be there previously to help us. And now it's
right.
like I have to make all these decisions. And so it's interesting, like, you kind of say, like, you became a man, and part of that becoming a man was like the ability to have a different perspective and have patience and have empathy for your father.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of grace that
Mm,
I never I felt like my father had a lot of grace with me, like, and only now I'm able to like give that back to him. It's I I had to go through like this healing process of not understanding that he is a human being too. He was a human being that was struggling with things very similar to me, that of what I struggled with. So I really had to make peace with that, and allow myself to give grace for the times that maybe he or I was disappointed or I was sad, or for
yeah.
him not being there.
Yeah. 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 You mentioned you had a couple poems. Do you want to bring those in?
Yeah, I would love to. I will try to read them.
Do your thing, man. Do your
Okay.
thing.
So the first poem's called Among the Suns. Among the suns, what do the stars look like from there? How many new colors have you counted? How many old friends have you met again? Did you meet any new souls that have yet to begin? What does freedom feel like? How does it look, taste, and smell? This time it feels like it's right, no fine print to tell. Infinite energy is all you are now, as God holds you among the suns. You are beaten and broken in this reality, but now in the next you are one. One with the things we cannot yet see, one with the land and one with the sea, one with the coral and one with the trees, one with the riptides and one with the breeze. I can feel you all around me. All I have to do is just breathe. Breathe you in all around me. All I have to do is just be. You are no longer bound by flesh and no longer bound by time. You may not use your eyes to see anymore, but that doesn't mean you are blind. And just because I cannot see you anymore, it doesn't mean that I won't find you. It just means that I'm blind, but not because I don't see, but because I look through the wrong eyes. Do you want me to read the second one?
Yeah.
Okay. This one is titled Best Friends.
Wow. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Best friends. We share the same differences. We should have been best friends. But the world separated our hearts. Now we're wavelengths apart. I hate the world for taking you away from me. The first time I didn't know this, but the second time stings. I can't get hung up on what can never be. If things were different, we wouldn't be the same. And we both wanted the best for us. We both wanted each other, but our anxiety kept us separated. In another lifetime, we were joined at the hip. You learning to sing from me, and me learning from you to die freely. We should have been best friends, but the world tore us apart. We could have had long nights and conversations with a drink to drink. We had, oh, sorry. We could have had long nights and conversations with a drink to cheers. We would have had, we would have shared everything, and know that for a fact. We could have been who we trusted. They took you away from me twice, at the start of my childhood and at the end of your earth life. I got along, made my way just like you, taught myself what I wanted to know just like you. You just didn't have the freedom that you gave me, and I thank you for that. But we are not victims to the universe, we are merely a part of it.
Man. Jobs. Tell me about this.
Um, yeah. The these poems were the ones that I wrote in 2020 during the lockdown. Um, I was laid off from my job, so I had a lot of time to process some things, and um, I think that during that time, my family really pulled together. Um, but these poems, I don't even remember like when I wrote them or where I was. Um, they were just I was just feeling all these things, like questioning where he's at now. Like what does that look like? Like what does that other side look like? Whatever you believe of what happens, to a person after they pass. Like I was just in question of that. Like because I did feel him very strongly with me, like maybe immediately after he passed, I just felt like he was still here. I would still talk to him. I would still feel his presence, and um so these were questions that the first poem, Among the Suns, those are questions that I was just really curious about. Like, what does it look like there on the other side? Does it have a taste? Does it have a smell? Like, do you even need your senses? Like, you know? Um, but I did feel like he was still able to like show up in ways in this in this third dimension, like among my family. And so I just was curious about how how those messages were coming through, or how was how were we able to still feel him, you know,
Mm.
around. And I have a big family, I have a very big family. Like my my parents come from really big families, so I have a lot of cousins and aunties. And so a lot of times where I lose a lot of family. Like ever since I was young, I remember just like always hearing about auntie or uncle passing away in Palau, and I think after a while that kind of just feels normal. It's different when they're closer to you, when you're closer to them, and it hits different. But I think after a while, you kind of are just numb to it. And I think that when my dad passed, that was like a real wake up call. Like, uh, yeah, it was a real like a bit of a shock, and a real awakening, I think, moment. And I had I've had experiences in the past where a relative has passed away, and I felt like a visit in the middle of the night, or
Hmm.
and I would tell my mom, and my mom would just let me know, like, oh, your auntie just probably wants to say bye before, because you weren't going to make it to the funeral, or like. So we've always felt like a spiritual presence with our ancestors and our loved ones. But um, it wasn't until my dad passed that like really, I can't say that I understood it, but I felt like I could I
You had
could
a
send
different
messages
connection
out.
to it.
Yes, yes. Whereas
Mm.
before it was like one sided, where I could receive a message from loved ones, Um, but after my dad passed, it felt like, oh, okay, I can talk to you. Like we can,
Tell me about that, man. Tell me
yeah,
about that. Do you still talk to him?
I do. Yeah, I mean, I still talk to him almost every day. I mean, I recently moved to the Big Island a
Okay.
little over a year ago.
Congrats.
Thank you. And yeah, I met my partner uh, almost 2 years ago, and then
Another
6 months
congrats, man.
later, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
And when I met my partner, I knew wholeheartedly that my dad had brought him to me, and I was so grateful. I just remember like when I first started talking to my partner Sammy, I was like in question, like this seems like he seems like not a real person. Like, is this too good to be true? And so I had a lot of questions about that. Um, and I was consulting my father in those moments, like, is this something? Are you okay with this? I had never told my father that I was gay. I he I know he knew,
Mm.
but I had never come out to him. I had never really came out to anybody in my family, really. I didn't think it was
Ne
really that
necessary?
important.
Okay.
I felt like if I found someone that I really cared about, and um things got serious, then yeah, then I would definitely tell my family. But um I was not even like, I guess I wasn't even in the space to look for a partner then. But yeah, this was 2022. I started dating online using Facebook dating, of all
Mhm.
things. But met Sammy, and we had this beautiful connection, and but I was still just in doubt of like, is this real? Like, yes, I feel this person, and it feels like an honest connection, but I was always going back to my dad at the end of the night, asking him like, is this okay with you? Like, I didn't want to be, I still didn't want to be like disrespectful of him. And then there was this one night that he just told me like, yes, like I brought him to you. This is my gift to you. Like, and I was just like, this is the hardest I cried since my dad's passing. Like, I was just in my room, just so grateful and just sobbing. um but saying thank you to him, like, thank you for bringing Sammy to me, thank you for showing me like that you're okay. I'm like, and that I'm not disappointing you in this, in finding who I truly am, and finding someone that I really really loved, and that loved me back in the same way that I wanted to be loved. And I just, there was so many things, like coincidences, like whatever you want to call them. Like, there's just so many things that were lining up. And one of the first things that me and Sammy shared with each other was that we had both lost our fathers. And he lost his father in, I think, 2020 or 2019, and I lost my father 2 years prior. And one of the we both talked about how we felt a different connection to our fathers after our passing. Um, and yeah, it was crazy. It was like he was in the room with me. Like, I felt
Mm.
in those moments he was like holding me and telling me like, it's okay. Like, I brought him to you. Like, this is for you. I want you to be happy. This is for you. And yeah, I mean, and still to this day, like, I look at Sammy, and I when I came here to Hilo, when I came to the Big Island, when I was on the land, I was like, I knew my dad was there. I
Mm.
felt him there. And there was a couple of times where, you know um Sammy was still dealing with some past stuff, and he just needed me to be his support. And there was a couple times where we had to pray with each other and just like ask for support from the ancestors, and I just felt like there was almost I almost felt like, because we had a situation at the house, where we had some unwanted visitors,
Challenges, yeah.
and yeah, and I prayed over Sammy, and I asked my dad, like, please, like, you know, like, bring all the ancestors, like, we need you here, we need your protection. And it was like they were surrounding.
Mm,
I just burst into tears because it was like I just looked out into the land outside the house, and I felt the presence of all my ancestors, just like, hey, we got your back, like, and we got Sammy's back, like, don't worry about anything. And like that is it's I sometimes I forget about that, like, on the day to day, because like just working all the time and just so busy. But when we run the house here as an Airbnb, as a rental, on vacation rental. Um, so a lot of times people come and they have like experiences with past loved ones. Even before I got here, like, people had told Sammy in the past, like, oh, I just recently, they would just open up to him about recent loss, and they would talk about, like, oh, I felt like my loved one was here at the house, when we came. So thank you for opening up your
mm,
house. And the land here is so, like, there's so much mana. There's so much
mm,
like power in the land here. I mean, it's still on all of Hawaii, but
mhm.
Oahu is just a little bit busier, so
Yeah,
you can't really
yeah,
feel that
yep,
energy as much. But
mhm,
here, there's just like, it's like fresh land. It's, you know the the island is still growing, as we speak. It's
mhm,
still expanding. And so I feel like in a lot of ways this place was like a portal where
mm.
I could channel, or not channel, I could,
Access?
yes, I could access my ancestors and speak freely to them. And I mean, I still talk to my father. I'm learning more to like talk more to like my grandparents, because my
Mhm,
grandparents passed when I was really young. I didn't really know them too well. So I'm learning more to like, talk to them. When my auntie came to the house for the first time, we walked the garden, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, your grandma had this tree, your grandpa had that tree."
mm,
And she felt, her parents here on the land. And I think yeah, just getting away from the city life in Oahu, and coming to a place that's so much more quiet, and there's so much more like, I think people here are a lot more spiritual.
yeah,
Um, yeah, just being in this energy field, it's almost it's almost like an in between realm. I don't know. It's
yeah,
yeah, things just feel different here. Like, I just feel so much more connected to my ancestors. Even though I'm not from Hawaii, like,
mhm,
I feel like being here is part of the preparation for me being in Palau.
mm. Man, I connect to that because I feel like so I'm in LA now and it's so busy. And LA is a
Yeah.
great place, but it's so busy, the traffic, jobs, all that kind of stuff. But when I was in Hawaii, like going to the beach, being able to put my feet in the on the sand and in the water and seeing the mountains all the time, like
Yes.
driving along Kalanianiole and seeing the
Yeah.
mountains, like there is nothing
Wow.
like it.
Yeah.
Nothing like it, and it felt we were around God-made beauty rather than, like,
Yes.
man-made structures or man-made beauty, and it was a lot easier to feel that access, so I totally connect with what you're saying about just being connected to the spirit there. But let me
Yeah.
go back. Let me ask you, man.
Yeah.
You said that like on a day-to-day basis, you don't really remember because of that noise. You don't really remember about your dad bringing Sammy and stuff to you and like
Yeah.
your ancestors surrounding the house. What's it like for you to remember that now? What is that like for you to go down this road?
Um, Part of it makes me feel a little like, I don't want to say it makes me feel guilty, but I just, because I don't want to ever seem ungrateful or like um unappreciative of their presence. But just
Mhm.
day-to-day stuff, like just trying to like work out or just trying to eat some food, like you're not even thinking about about those things.
Right, right.
But the one daily practice that um I do with my friends here and with Sammy here is that we always like thank the food that we eat, thank the ancestors, and thank the plants and the animals that provided the meal and the hands that prepared it. So that's something that like we always make sure to do that before we eat anything. Like take a breath, be grateful.
Mhm,
So that's something that like a daily thing.
mhm.
Um, but like the other week, like me and Sammy just had there was just a lot going on, and we are just processing some things, so there was a little bit of tension. Um, but in that moment, I was like, okay, well, like, remember when you were so grateful for this person, like remember how you felt when you first met this person, like bring that back, and
Mhm.
I think when it gets really heavy, then I think when it gets really heavy, it's almost easier to jump back into that gratefulness because it's like, okay, well, take a breath. What's actually going on, and
Yeah.
like, what are you actually feeling, and what are you projecting onto someone else, or and yeah, I don't. Wait, sorry, what was the question?
No,
I
no,
totally like
no,
I'm
no, no,
just
it's all
rambling.
good. No, it's all good. It was just like, how do you feel about having this memory now? Um,
Hmm.
and you answered the question. You answered the question perfectly. I'm curious, like now as you describe this, I love how you just described the relationship with your father, and like I have the image of like you in your bed, your father coming to you and saying, I want you to be happy, and I'm bringing this man to your life. Like, I think that's a powerful image. And I'm curious, how do you hold death now in this season? And yeah, how do you hold death now?
I think for myself, I'm less afraid of it, like for myself. But when it comes to like losing loved ones, I mean, I was always kind of fearful of that. Now it's like I don't dwell on it as much. But like I do sometimes, every once in a while, I do have anxiety when like I can't reach someone that I'm trying to speak to, or like my family. It's like if I'm not getting a hold of them and I don't know where they are, I'm like asking around, like I'll get anxious and think the worst possible things. But that's that's way like far less than it was in the past, and I think I'm still working on like learning to let go when um when a close one someone close to you passes. Like
Mhm.
I'm still learning to let go of what I felt could have been, like, oh, I should have talked to them before, or I should have went to visit more often. I should have called more often. Um, and I do like those thoughts do come to me, but I'm quicker to shut it down. I'm quicker to be like, it's okay, like it wasn't meant to be. They're
Mhm.
in a better place, and you can still talk to them. So
Mhm.
that's the thing that I
Mhm.
still hold on to is like you can still talk to them. They may not respond the same way that they would in the past, but you can learn to hear them a different way. You can learn to feel them a different way. And
Yeah.
a lot of it is I feel a lot of it comes through my writing. Um like as I'm writing, a lot of times I'll feel like I'll write something down and read it back and be like, oh, that's something so and so would say. And then I feel like, oh, maybe that was them, like speaking
Mhm.
through my writing. So that's something that is
Mhm.
super, it's like always, it's like a gem. It's like, oh, it's like you're just kind of like digging through dirt, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, a
Yeah.
gem. Like that's what it feels like. It's like, oh wow, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Man, you're really like I appreciate you sharing your grief, and what I'm taking from it is just like there's so many different there's just so many different emotions wrapped up in so many different experiences that
Yeah.
wrapped up in it. And I'm curious, like one final question for you. What final thing would you like to say to your dad?
Ooh, I would tell him thank you,
Mm,
like endless thank yous. I would have to write a list of of things to say, like of thank you, of just thank yous to say to him, just because he did so much for me and my family. But I would also tell him like that I love him, and I wish I said that more, but I knew he knew it, and I knew he felt it. I know he feels it. Um, I would tell him I would want him to like come and stay at this house that I'm at, and and uh, and hang out with Sammy. I would tell him about Sammy. I would I would tell him I still tell him to visit my mom and talk to mom. Go see mom. Um, yeah, I would I would tell him. I mean, I don't. I I know this was what the interview was about, but I didn't even think about this question. um,
It's
oh
all good,
man.
man. I love it.
Oh my! I also like I made the sandwich.
Oh, you
So
made okay.
this was like what he would eat.
Okay.
I
Okay.
made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich
Okay.
with an over easy egg in it.
Yeah.
Sounds weird. It sounds weird. I know, and I didn't know it was weird before. I didn't know it was weird. I would always eat it with him.
Wait,
But
hold that up. Hold that up,
oh
man.
yes,
So a
so
peanut
it's
butter and jelly
peanut butter and
sandwich.
jelly
Yep. Open that bad boy up with an
with a
over easy
over
egg.
easy egg, and you gotta pop the yolk before you bite into it. And I actually didn't know it was weird until like a couple of years ago when I was talking about it with a friend. I was like, yeah, like I was eating breakfast and it made me think of my dad. And they're like, wait, peanut butter and jelly with the egg in it? I'm like, isn't that a thing? They're like, no. I was like, oh, I guess my dad just ate those. Well, I literally thought of it like 2 days ago. I was like, oh, I should make that sandwich, like, because I would always ask him, like, if ever I went to the kitchen, I would ask him, do you want me to make you some eggs? And it was always yes, but sometimes he just wanted an egg and salt, like a hard boiled egg and salt. And every once in a while, he'd be like, can you make me peanut butter and jelly with the egg? And I was like, okay, I got you. So
Wait, did you eat some yet? Did you
I
just make one?
didn't. Yeah, I made one. I didn't eat some yet.
Take a bite, man. Take a
Okay,
bite.
I'll take a bite. This is for you, Papa. This is for you. You have to try this. Please, please try this and let me know what you think.
Oh man, is it as good as you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is that like grape jelly, strawberry jelly? What kind of jelly? Doesn't matter?
Um, my preference is strawberry,
Okay.
but growing up, all we had was grape jelly.
Okay.
So the OG is grape jelly, but try both.
I love it. I love it. I love that you brought that sandwich in. So that was his go-to meal.
Yeah, that was like his breakfast. Like that was his breakfast. Easy breakfast, eggs and bread, usually eggs and toast, or if there was rice, eggs and rice. It was always egg and something.
Hmm.
And peanut butter and jelly was the weirdest one, so had to bring that in.
And you said Bappa. You said Bappa. That's
Oh,
that's what you
Papa,
called it?
yes.
Bappa. All right.
Yeah,
All
that's how
right.
we call our dads in Palawan.
Mm, mm. So, buddy, you know what? That's a perfectly fitting way to go ahead and end this conversation. I thank you so much, Tobbs. Yeah, you were about to
Oh
say
my
something, man.
gosh.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity to like work through some things and to talk about my dad in such a beautiful light. Um, I, 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 as much as I get to talk to him, I don't get to talk to a lot of people about him. So this is very special to me. So thank you for holding this space and creating this space. I think what you're doing is so beautiful, and it's gonna usher so much healing for people. And I can't wait to share this with my sisters. I can't wait to share this with my mom. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm so glad to see you again and talk to you again. And yeah,
Oh my gosh, my gosh, my gosh. I have to end with like one thank you. I'm moved. I'm still feeling like maybe my mom gave me this idea. Um,
sure.
and I'm curious where to see where this goes. And I'm just so grateful to reconnect with you. Like, and I have to say, everybody, this guy, he's gold. He is a Kimpo black belt. And
No, no,
like,
no, 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 no,
watch
no,
out, watch
no,
out. This
not
guy,
Kempo.
what?
It was a Kung Fu.
Oh, that's right. That's
I think
right.
I made it to like green belt in
You
Kempo. I'm
were
not sure.
black. No, you got to black.
No, I didn't. Just in Kung Fu though. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
don't know Kempo people like testing me.
Oh, okay. We don't want anybody to see this and come try and find you on Big Island. Oh man. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, and then I want to
Okay.
check in with you for a second.
Okay,
All
yeah,
right.
for sure.
Thank you everybody for attending this amazing episode with Tobbs, Johannes Kepler. That sticks with me, but my friend Tobbs, and just Tobbs, thank you for being open and vulnerable and sharing your love, your joy, your everything, and that recipe that people surely got to try.
No problem. Thank you for everything. This wouldn't have happened for me if it wasn't for you. So thank you.
Thank you.